What up, YouTube? So, I was just sitting here and thinking about how the world is filled with irrational people and how uh, it, it doesn't matter that some things are so clear and it takes. And there's all these trends of sort of the revolution of truth throughout history where everyone comes to understand, okay, obviously it's like that, but it takes a long time to do that. And so I was just thinking about this trend and what's really going on behind the scenes in psychology and so on and so forth. And I'm starting to think that, or I guess I have a hypothesis, or maybe it's a theory, that it's actually based on sort of in groups and uh, common ways of thinking. So, to be more accurate, I think that the reason why you can get just a huge group of people who are all echoing the same thoughts and they're all dead wrong, completely incorrect in every way, and even the logic or lack thereof and the fallacies they use, all of it is all just tied together, and why that can form in the face of the truth and oppose it in such a way that it is a meaningful divide in history. And I started to realize that, or I started to think about, this is a weird way to look at life, but I'm actually starting to, I think I see it clearly at this point. So one of the things that has drawn my curiosity as well is, I guess you would say, hierarchical dynamics, alpha, beta, and as well as sadomasochism and submission, dominance. These are things that have drawn my attention, I suppose you could say, because I exhibit uh, those characteristics in one direction or another. So, what I'm getting at here is I, I, I have a sense that there's those who submit and those who dominate. And logic isn't really something that is repeatedly concerned by people. People don't. Actually, there was a stat. There was a stat done, or a study. Sorry, a study, and there's a stat that follows that. I think it was about 20% of people, maybe it was 10%, can think with logic without a story. It's something like 80% of people must have a story to be able to sort of conceptualize piercing logic that sort of guides their way of being, their behavior and beliefs. So, with that said, it's evident that logic isn't a guiding force in the progression of human development. So, what is it that's really guiding us? What makes people listen to each other and click up into groups if we're uh, when it with respect to the truth? If we're not actually using logic, directly, the the most optimal form of logic. So I've kind of in my mind sort of set up these two paradigms from what I see. So one side, and it's the minority usually. This is the alpha, apex, optimal truth seeking and willful progression of self, and by extension the species as a whole. And then I see the other side, is beta, submission, masochistic, and they're on the dominant side. There's a somewhat sadistic sort of slant to it, and I know that's bleeding into some philosophy I heard about. Shoot, who was it? Anyway, so now if you actually break things up into this paradigm of guiding forces, you can actually form what we see as a theory in with respect to truth. So, what's going on? Why are some people following the truth and some people heading towards lies and deception and things like this? So, if you break it up, you realize that all of these people who are illogical, who are following suboptimalism, who are betas, who are basically, sort of ruminating over false ideologies and just listening to those kinds of people. From a deep introspective psychological level, this is a form of masochism, because they know that the truth-seeking alpha, optimal, sadistic side of humanity, which is the 10 or 20% of mostly males, if I'm being realistic, are going to school them, so to speak, and they welcome the abuse, the abuse of being enlightened, the suffering that follows, and many of them are willing to prolong that process. They just want to prolong that level of suffering because at their psychological core, they just enjoy being told they're wrong and knowing that they're wrong. It's a form of masochism. They enjoy that, and so this is completely beta. It's totally beta. And that's what I mean. It's suboptimal. It's beta. It's these are the underlings. They are those who are meant to be, from a metaphysical or sort of metaphorical level, annihilated, punished. This primal drama is the alpha optimal sadists are destroying and punishing and controlling the beta suboptimal masochists, and this is a drama that plays out repeatedly until the dominant group takes control completely of the entire project. And so why is it, here's the important part, why is it that you go on YouTube and you can find vast swathes of of people who are just dead wrong, they've been wrong forever, but they're still just fighting for that that wrong, incorrect ideology or whatever it might be. They're just fighting for it, hopelessly, of course, and repeatedly you see them punished. I mean, I think that the first one I noticed that came up on YouTube in particular was looking at creationism and Christianity as a whole. And now you can see, every now and then you can find a video of a Christian. It used to be flooded, though. It used to be flooded with lots of Christians who are arguing for Christianity, but they just got obliterated in debate through logic. It just obliterated to the point where there's just every now and then you get like one crazy Christian who thinks that they've got the new shit to argue, and then like 10 atheists descend upon them and just tear apart their video and make them look stupid. And this that's the first one, but now there's other things, and it's the same with like SJWs and the this is the other one. Another one that came up and is now on a global political level. The SJW shit, where we're talking about Islamic invasion and into Europe, and now now they're actually banding together and being like, no, the EU is going to stop this shit because it's stupid to let them take over the country. They've just decided, and now that is moving forward, and it took some time. but I thought I was like hearing something, and it's crazy. But when you see these movements, one is correct, one is incorrect, but they keep fighting for sort of that incorrect ideology. I think that the crux of all of this is based in psychology. I don't think it has to do as much about what is true anymore. I used to think it was just, oh, they're just dumb, they're just stupid people. But that is very much a manifestation of perhaps my own psychology wanting to dismiss and punish them. So the arguments they're making aren't coming from logic, they're coming from feelings, and they're coming from a deeply rooted psychology of masochism, where they want to be told they're wrong. They want to be punished in a matter of speaking. They want to be wrong, and they want to prolong that experience of being wrong so they can continue to be punished. And now this all sounds kind of pseudo-sexual and weird, but what are animals but pseudo-sexual and weird? I mean, if you scale us back to our earliest microorganism forming species as a concept, what was it but like a tiny blob of microorgans puncturing a hole in another tiny blob of microorgans and squirting DNA into it. It's like that's where we come from, and it doesn't make any sense that after all this time we would have got rid of that natural process. I think that it's deeply rooted in our psyche, and whether or not someone has the gender to match their body, which is weird that I'm even bringing that up. But as far as gender goes, I mean, maybe there is something to be said about that. Just but they're confused about it. They're a little bit confused about their gender. Well, not to say that people are born with that, but that people get confused about it. I mean, and you can see this if you've ever known anyone who's had like a hard ass dad, like, and if they're male, they can get gender confused pretty easily. Like, they start having female traits, and that's just, I mean, that's basic science. They've done studies on this, and I think that if you treat someone feminine enough for a male feminine enough for a long time, they turn kind of feminine. I think that that's a basic thing about our species, and if and they've done other studies on I think monkey troops where if it's all males, like that one of them eventually gets picked out to be like the female, and then they're all like they all act gay. So, which is funny, but it's more to do with what I think that I'm talking about with these argument that arguments that come up. I think it's an intercourse of the mind rather than a logical debate, and that's something that we easily take for granted. It's like, what makes you so sure the person across from you is concerned about logic? I think that there's not as many people who really care, and I think it's evidenced in every debate that I've ever watched, where in the face of evidence and logic and reason and rationality and good research, you find people who argue against that and turn a blind eye to what is plainly obvious to anyone who is concerned about logic. And so I think there must be something else to all this, and I'm pretty sure it has to do with this dynamic of uh, the these two classes that I'm putting forth here, and if you paint your lens with that, I think it will be easy for you to see what I'm talking about too. But this video it's always getting long. It's getting long. So great. Uh, have a beautiful day.